Welcome to another edition of Swim Easy Speed. Today we're going to look at an age grouper that I've been working with. This is a 50 free. We got it a little bit after the start, so some of this data is going to be not totally accurate, but we'll get a good picture of what's going on. So as we go through, he's going to be right in this lane. So this lane right here, that's him. And what we're going to do is just kind of take a look and see what we got going on. So when we back it up, you can't see him kind of off the start. It looks like he has a decent start. There's a lot of the guys that pop up pretty soon. He pops up somewhere behind that lifeguard stand right there. And you can see, he's getting up on top of the water, at least trying to. There's a little bit too much bounce. So you can see, and he's turning a little bit too much to the side. Typically that bounce is what we see is when either an athlete doesn't have their core engaged enough and or they're letting pressure go at the top of the stroke right when the hand enters the water. I think for him, it's probably a little bit of a combination of the two because you can see kind of his feet are a little bit low here. And then he comes in, breath right before the turn. And then he takes a breath right out of the turn. And, when we're thinking about the 50 free, obviously we want to take as few breaths as possible. Certainly you can see, right before the turn, it's okay. He gives himself enough time. It doesn't look like it gets in the way of his turn. And then, one of the things that we're looking at is we're looking at, his underwater and when he comes up. And he comes up almost right after pushing off the wall and opens up to this big, huge turn and breath. And, the fastest that an athlete is ever going is when they're off the blocks and off the turn. So when you open yourself up like that right after the turn, so right when you're going as fast as you possibly can go, you open and increase that drag by 3 to 4%. It's just going to kill momentum. It's going to deaden you in the water. And, that's kind of some of the things that we want to avoid, especially in a 50 free. But you can see, coming back, he's starting to look a little bit more stable, a little bit more balanced. That bounce is still there. The kick looks pretty good. His tempo, kind of on the backside, if we look down here, he increased his tempo on the backside. Now his distance per stroke cycle decreased. Now some of that's going to be off because of we didn't get from the very start. But it looks like we got probably to the breakout on that first lap. A little bit slower to the 15 meter mark, but probably about the same if you take into account, the time from that we missed on the start. And then, it was about 13.8 coming back, probably about 13 low going out. So, my guess is he probably had a little bit of a better back half than a front half. And, we definitely want to kind of reverse that trend and do it where it would be more of a strong front end and then, try to do our best to hold on to whatever you have left over. But again, that's where you're trying to get to that easy speed, where you're trying to get really, really relaxed, even when things are very, very stressful. You want to try to get out of your own way and just let all of the training that you've done be able to express itself so you don't get in the way of it. So you don't let anything get in the way. You almost become just a passenger or an observer to the race instead of an active participant. You just let that training take over. If you've done this a bunch of times, you've been training for it, let the training check take over. Trust the training, trust yourself, and you'll start to see some really big improvement. But it all starts with being really present, really focused on what you're doing. And remember, if you're present and focused, you are relaxed. It's when we start kind of thinking too far ahead, like, am I going to make a mistake? Oh, what about the turn? And you're on the start. So anytime you're thinking way ahead instead of just trying to stay present with your stroke, present with the moment, and get as much out as you can out of each stroke. So as always, thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the pool soon.